start with sketching. So either doing CAD digital sketches or drawing sketches, kind of mock up the idea. And then you do sketch models out of cardboard and wood. Since we use paper, I use a lot of X-Acto knives and saws to kind of work with the wood. If I'm doing a small detail, for bigger cuts, we use a laser cutter. That's when you need to use Illustrator or a vector-based sketching program such as that and kind of build out the idea. And so if you're starting from scratch, you kind of have to figure out the architecture. And so I'll design digital mock-ups of the layout. Our product is a combination of physical, mechanical hardware and electrical hardware, and kind of figuring out the flow. It's kind of like designing a city grid. Additionally, our pieces are modular, so everything is a massive puzzle, and you want everything to fit well together, but you also want it to be this like fun maze. So it's this enjoyable experience for the user to explore as they're building. So you kind of figure out the shape first and how you want the physical mass to work. So you just start building walls around everything. As I mentioned earlier, our design is modular. It's pieces. And so I never think about the pieces at first. I kind of just think about the physical shape and what the experience is with the shape, how people are going to interact. Are they going to open? Are they going to want to put things in? Is it storage? Is it something that's going to be on the go? And so once you have that core shape, then you start thinking about those features. And so that's like step 2 in building your architecture. And then step 3 is kind of thinking about the pathways, the roadways, if we're using an analogy of a city grid, of how everything's going to connect and flow together. And you start laying it out. And then you kind of have an idea of how the internal is going to work. And so then how the external structure is going to then support it. Then you start next thinking about the modular connections and how it's all going to work together. Once again, you want to think about the human's interaction, how they're going to interact, what is going to be the most durable, the most efficient, the most clever, the most fun. And you start thinking about those touches, prototyping separate from the base, a hinge, and exploring it, making sure you're having fun. Because once again, you're designing something for a young kid and they don't want to be bored. I think some adults are okay with it, but kids, no, never. Every single kid, it has to be fun. You always have to kind of balance between the materials, the cost of the materials, and the experience. Even though you might have an amazing idea, you constantly have to do iterations to simplify, to reduce the build of material cost. So you're always constantly balancing between the materials, the cost of the materials, and the overall experience. And so you always want to simplify. And so kind of when you basically have the core shape and the connections established, then you start thinking about the assembly, the full experience from the beginning to the end. And then you start noticing details and features you need to add in or remove. And throughout this whole process, you're going weekly to test in schools or at homes, and it's a lot of work. And that's why you keep steady. You create the schedules and you stick with them, not necessarily like the project schedule, but your weekly goals. Like, I need to have this designed and prototyped by this day. I need to make time to prep for testing, and then I need to go testing. More realistically, it's testing every 2 weeks if your schedule can afford that. A lot of times it's great to do a pilot with a school. So you can be in the classroom for a month. Every week you come, and so you can start seeing, so the young learners can learn about the iterative process. So it's a great opportunity for them, but then you can kind of evolve with them over time. Kids are going to grow with the product as they learn. You're seeing an authentic view of being in the home, for example, or in the classroom, actually how they would experience it. And so you get this authentic look of really how your product is being experienced in the classroom.